Welcome to the brand new Home Cues That Work webinar. We're excited to have all of you here. Say hello in the chat once you hop on. Some of you will be on YouTube, some will be on Zoom. Let's
Don't
see
be on
here.
Facebook. Do you broadcast this on Facebook?
Not anymore. I don't know that I can do both at the same time. So I usually go and share it on Facebook, but it is the YouTube link.
Gotcha.
So it is there too. Yes, actually. Yeah, it is there. We are going to have a really good discussion today. So, in case you're new, I actually just changed this so you didn't get the reminder for it. But this is our Home Cures That Work webinar. We will have this each Thursday where we kind of dive into maybe non-traditional health topics or topics that we haven't discussed before, or things that are outside of our typical type 2 diabetes and healthy heart focus areas that we've really kind of zoomed in on. And we will still reserve our Wednesdays for our healthy heart topics and our type 2 diabetes discussions. But this on Thursday will be open to all sorts of things. So we're also looking for feedback from you guys too. We'd love to know maybe some of the other health concerns or issues that you would like to hear from Dr. Saunders on. You know, maybe you're someone that has type 2 diabetes, but you also have something else going on. Maybe you want to know how to improve your gut health, or you're wondering about how to prevent Alzheimer's, or, whatever. Let us know. We want to get some feedback from you guys about some things that you'd like to learn more about. Maybe you want to know what's the best type of water to drink. I don't know. Whatever you want. We would love to hear from you. So feel free to put that in the chat and we will read through those. I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer that Dr. Saunders is a great doctor, but he is not your doctor. And so we do recommend that you consult with your healthcare provider before you implement any of the things that we talk about today. All right, let's see what we have going on in here. Okay, so hi, Don. So the Healthy Heart webinar will be on Wednesdays. We'll kind of alternate those heart topics and type 2 diabetes topics. We have Diane from Canada, Roxy from Arizona, Wayne is here, David, Homer. Okay, so if you never gotten the announcement for the change, you don't have to change anything on your end if you're already registered. I'm just making a little name change, and so you'll get the email about that. If you've never registered for the Wednesday webinar, go to bartonwebinar.com and you can register there. Again, that's bartonwebinar.com. Actually, I'll post that in the chat. I'm also going to let you know, in case this comes up later, if you use code webinar25, you'll save 25% on anything on that site. Multitasking here. Hold on.
You sure are.
There we
Hello
go.
to Steve and Bertha and Jennifer and Andrew and Homer. Isn't there a show from a long time ago where a woman would say hi to all the children? Dr. Saunders, you're smiling.
Romper room.
Romper room. Sometimes I feel like this is a romper.
She would take out her magnifying glass and she would look right at the TV. I see Julie and Tommy and Billy and yeah.
Someone brought that up on one of the webinars one time, actually.
Yeah.
And then I had to look up the lady's name because I had no idea who they were talking about.
Hello, Carol from Gainesville, Florida. I'm in South Florida. How did you guys fare after the last hurricane? I'm assuming it went close by to where you're at.
Did you have any repercussions from that?
So where we are specifically, we did not. We are very thankful, but we are close to the Everglades, and there was a category 3 in the Everglades, not too far from us. But then there was tornadoes north in Palm Beach County, and there was one tornado that went 18 miles through Palm Beach County. I was up there last weekend, drove through. Oh my gosh, I've never seen, there are trees, huge trees and branches piled high as houses. You can just total destruction in this one lane, basically, of the tornado. So there are a lot of tornadoes around here, but most of it was West Florida, and then kind of through Central Florida.
Looks like a tornado went through here.
Okay. Christine said I flooded near Tampa. Wow. Okay.
Well, let us know
Okay.
any topic ideas. Put them in the chat. Anytime during the webinar, if you think of anything. If Dr. Saunders says something, put it in the chat, and that makes you think of another topic. We're going to collect those ideas and start creating a list of topics that we're going to cover.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into some things today. Actually, we're going to talk about osteoporosis, and I'm excited to chat about this. We haven't talked about this in a long time. So let's dig into this. Dr. Saunders, what do we need to know?
Yeah, first of all, what is osteoporosis anyway? Well, osteoporosis is when the bones are weaker than they should be. But what's really interesting about bones, and this is what you need to know, if you know anything about fiberglass, if you've ever seen the fabric that fiberglass is made of, it's glass, it's spun glass, and it's very thin fibers of glass that are woven together, and it's flexible, it's really strong, but it's really flexible. So then when they make fiberglass like boats, for example, or anything out of fiberglass, um, they put a coat of resin, and then they put this glass in it, and then they coat it again with resin, and the resin makes it stiff. And so then you have the strength of the glass with the stiffness of the resin, and that makes something super strong. Whereas if you had just the resin, then it is flexible, but it can break more easily. If you have just the glass, well, it's too flexible and it won't. You can't keep it in shape. So the two of them together is what gives it strength. You see the same thing with reinforced concrete. When you just have concrete, the concrete can crack and break, and it's not it's strong in terms of compression strength, for example, but not in terms of shear strength where it can crack and move. Whereas if you add rebar into your reinforced concrete, that's what rebar is, reinforcing bar, that goes in the concrete, and the steel reinforcement prevents it from cracking and breaking. It gives it shear strength. So then you have something that's super strong, being the reinforced concrete, as opposed to just if you were just to pour concrete, for example. So that concept is exactly the same concept that your bones are made out of. So it's important to understand that, because when they're doing tests, they're looking for something specific. They're looking for calcium deposits. So why is that important? Well, because the calcium is like the resin or the concrete. It's the stiffening agent that makes it hard and stiff. And your bones have to be stiff. If they're not, what happens? Well, they bend. Has anyone ever heard of rickets? Rickets is a deficiency of vitamin D, and it makes the bones bend because there's not enough vitamin D to bring in enough calcium to deposit a bunch of calcium on the bones as children grow. So their bones get thin, and they have the protein, but they don't have the calcium, so they bend easily. So there's two parts to the bone, just like the reinforced concrete and fiberglass. You have two parts to bone. You have the calcium part, which is the stiffening agent. That's like the resin or the concrete. And then you have a fibrous tissue that is protein. So the protein is kind of like you have tendons and ligaments. It's made up of the same thing, collagen and keratin. So that collagen is really strong, like the fiberglass, but it's bendy. And so you don't want your bones to be bendy. You want your bones to hold your body up really well. So you have this protein that's super strong, but then you have to have the calcium around it. That's like the concrete part to make it stiff, so that your bones can hold your body up. So when they're doing tests, they're looking at how much calcium is in those bones. And so you can see from the picture here that the healthy bone has a lot of little, they're called trabeculae. They're little, there's areas inside, in between the bones. It's called the bone marrow. Has fat in it. It has all the cells that are making your red blood cells and all that. But the osteoporosis has less. There's less calcium and there's less protein holding it together. So the bones are not as stiff, they're not as strong, and they break more easily. So people who have osteoporosis can get fractures more easily. So the question then is, why does this happen? Why would you have a bone that has a lot less of this like the fiberglass hydroxyapatite is called? Why would you have less of it in some bones? Well, it's because they're not being used. So people who use their bones, who are out running around and doing stuff and lifting heavy things and moving stuff and using their bones, they're making little tiny microfractures in their bones. These little tiny fractures then, when you go to sleep at night, you go into the anabolic mode and your body repairs them. But it doesn't just repair them the same way they were. It repairs them stronger than they were. So now you have more bone in that spot than you did before, so it doesn't break again. And that happens over and over, daily, day after day, year after year. As you're a child, your bones are growing, and there's according to the stress that's placed on them, you get more and more bone formation. When you're not using your bones, then you don't make more bones. Why? Because you don't need it. This is a biological system, and everything is made according to need. And so that's the problem. So people who are sitting around all the time, like me, I work all day sitting in a chair. I have to go out and actively do something. I have to make myself do something so that I can build bones. If I don't go do something, then I'm not going to build bones. So the stress that's placed on the bones causes your body to make more bone. And when you don't stress your bones, then you have less bone. Now, there's other factors involved, like nutrients. If you don't get enough calcium, then you're not going to have enough bone because you can't put calcium deposits on. If you don't make protein well, then you may not make enough of the protein to make your bones strong. So it's not just the calcium. So when people are doing tests for osteoporosis, they're looking for calcium deposits. And how do they know what you're supposed to be like? How do they know how much bone you're supposed to have? Well, what they do is they compare you to other people. And it's kind of a problem because let's say you weighed 250 pounds. Then you're going to have more bone than somebody that weighs 150 pounds. Why? Because you need more, because you're stressing those bones more, because they carry more weight. So they're going to have more bone. And so if you weigh 150 pounds and you go in and have a test and they compare you to someone that's 250 pounds, they're going to say, you have osteoporosis. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, I have osteoporosis. This is horrible. What a horrible disease. And you're not even going to know you have it. It's going to be like, have you ever had a fracture? No, I never had a fracture. So what's the problem here? Well, the problem is that you have less bone than somebody else. And because you have less bone, you may be likely to have fractures more easily. The problem is that it's really not a good way of testing, and the comparison is really not a good comparison because we really don't know how much bone you should have. So the test is kind of inaccurate, to use the best word for it. It's not that the testing itself is inaccurate, although it is that too. If you'll notice on those trabeculae, how that's looks like a sponge, right? There's the holes all in there, and then there's the bone part. If you move your little thing over a little bit, if you're testing like this part of your bone and you move it over here, you're going to have less. You move it over here, you're going to have more. Depending on where it is, it's going to be a very different number. And so the test itself is inaccurate, and then the comparison to other people is inaccurate. So what do you do about that? What do you do for osteoporosis? I rarely recommend that anybody test, but if somebody's had like a couple of fractures, like someone fell, broke her wrist, she on one side she broke her wrist, on the other side she broke her ankle. And I said, hey, you've had 2 fractures. Let's do a test. And so we did a test. And she, of course, was really low. But we didn't really need to test because what we're going to do is build bone anyway. And so there isn't any other way to build bone besides exercising, weight-bearing exercise, so stressing your bones, and then getting enough nutrients to build that. So that includes protein, getting enough protein. That's important because remember, if you don't have that rebar in your concrete, then it's just going to be brittle. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So you have to have protein. And I usually put people who have like fractured their bones, I put them on several nutrients to build protein. One of them is called collagen, and it's hydrolyzed collagen, and that's collagen peptides, and these are peptides and amino acids that are specifically from collagen, and so they are all of the things that you need to make collagen in your body. And then something called MSM, methylsulfonylmethane, which is a sulfur supplement that is really important for putting the disulfide bonds between the fibers of your collagen so that it's strong. And that's what makes them really strong is those disulfide bonds. And so you need that MSM to do that. And then vitamin C is also an important part of that. So that's part of the supplementation, but they also need vitamin D, as in dog. So why vitamin D? Well, because vitamin D is what tells your intestines to absorb calcium, and it tells your kidneys don't waste calcium so that you can hold on to the calcium that you have. And then you add vitamin K. And vitamin K is what takes that calcium that you absorbed and puts it into your bones, as opposed to if you take calcium and vitamin D without vitamin K or don't have sufficient vitamin K, you make calcium deposits in your arteries and your soft tissues and make bone spurs and soft tissue calcium. You don't want that. That's not a good thing. So you want the vitamin K. So with the supplements by themselves, it's not going to do it. That's not going to build bone. You actually build the strength of bone by exercising. If you don't exercise, you don't build bone. So what about these drugs that you can take, that you can just sit around and pop a pill or take an injection and you can build bone by sitting around? Okay, now I'm going to tell you what they do. They kill your osteoclasts. Osteoclasts, so like remember I said you make these little microfractures in your bones? The osteoclasts clean up everything, and so the osteoblasts come in and make the new bone. And so if you kill the osteoclasts, then you can't clean up everything, and you can't take the calcium out of your bones, because that's the cell that takes the calcium out of your bones. So what ends up happening is all you have are what are called osteoblasts to build bone, but they're not building strong bone. They're just putting in calcium deposits. And so what happens is you get brittle bone. So it's kind of like now you have concrete, but it's not reinforced. So it's brittle. So for example, unless somebody was in a high-speed motorcycle accident or car accident or something, we never saw mid-shaft fractures of a femur. But now people that are taking osteoporosis medications, we're seeing mid-shaft fractures of the femur from just falling down. Also, they cause a necrosis of the jaw. People have a tooth removed and it can't heal, and it gets necrosis in the jaw because they've been on these medications. So osteoporosis medications are not the answer. They're actually very counterproductive. They're really bad for bone health long term, and they're quite toxic. And you know, if they told you, if you've ever been on an osteoporosis medication, and say, make sure you're sitting up when you take it, because if you lay down, it's going to eat up your esophagus. And you're like, what? What am I taking? Well, it's toxic waste. It's something that kills specific types of cells, and especially goes to osteoclasts. So that's not an answer. So the drugs are counterproductive. They make bad bone. They don't make good bone. They make thick bone, but it's not reinforced bone, so it's not strong bone. And then so the real way to build bone is exercise. And then there's the supplements that I talked about, but don't forget exercise. If you're not doing exercise, if you're not stressing your bones, you're not building bone. You can take all the supplements you want, and it's not going to work until you actually stress your bones. Everything you ever wanted to know about osteoporosis.
That's a lot of really good information. What about soft bone? My mother-in-law has osteoporosis. She's 90, keeps getting fractures in her vertebrae. They say that it's soft.
Yeah, so the soft bone is that it has the protein part of it, but the calcium part of it is lost. So it's not hard. There's hard calcium, and then there's soft calcium, and it's not all the same. So, for example, if you looked at the difference between, have you ever seen like a clamshell? If you can break it, it's really hard. Or like your teeth, you have the enamel on the outside is super hard bone, and then the dentin on the inside is soft bone. It's actually softer.
Now,
Yeah.
and she gets cement, like bone cement, put into her fractures. Is that a good thing?
Well,
Help her.
Yeah, it helps. It's something. It's a stopgap measure. Yeah, and so if she's had one fracture, even, yeah, vertebral fractures are common. Then she needs to work up to, getting those supplements that we talked about, and then working up in her exercise to build bone. You can build bone at any age. You don't have to, be young to build bone, but it does require some effort.
That was my question. Is it too late for anybody? But you're saying no.
No,
You can
not
build it
too
in.
late.
That's amazing.
All right. I saw a couple of questions about this. People wondering if they're getting enough vitamin, or actually, did I see two of these? Yes. Wondering about amounts for vitamin D. Am I getting enough K with the D? Am I getting enough in synochroma?
Oh, okay. So if you're taking synochroma, that's 5,000 units of vitamin D, and that's about right. 5,000 units gets people up to about, if you were to measure your level, it would be about 50. And that's the optimum level. It's considered high if you're over 100. So if you were to take 2 synochroma a day, then that would get you up usually into the 80s or 90s. When I test people, that's usually where they are. And so, synochroma works really well. So looking at between 5 and 10,000 units a day. If you have osteoporosis, you should be on the high side. You should be taking like 10,000 units a day. And the reason for that is because your bone absorption will be better and your kidney excretion will be less. But you also should have vitamin K. And the amount of vitamin K is between 100 and 300 micrograms a day. So most supplements are around, 5,000 units of vitamin D and 100 to 200 micrograms of vitamin K. And so if you get them both together, that's fine. You don't have to get them together, but yeah, that's great.
All right. That was something else I was going to ask. Okay, Sandra had said I have plaque buildup from diabetes, which caused a stroke. Okay, so we're talking about kind of our diabetes and health topics a little bit here. Prescribed atorvastatin. What is that for? Concerned about side effects.
Okay, so the atherosclerosis from diabetes is related to inflammation, and that causes clotting. It causes excessive clotting in your arteries, and the arteries, when there's clotting in the arteries, if it goes to other places of your body, you don't notice it because there's redundant circulation, but your brain, you're going to notice it. So that's what a stroke is. So a stroke is a clot that goes into your brain and plugs up an artery. And so the area that's not getting any blood flow is going to be screaming for, I want more kind of thing. So the problem is a clot. So having the problem of a clot, you have to ask the question, how do I deal with that? How do I prevent clots in the future? And Lipitor does not add anything to that. In fact, the studies show Lipitor is in the long term counterproductive, but it makes no difference in strokes or heart attacks. Zero, nothing. There's no relationship between Lipitor and preventing strokes or heart attacks. So what you want to do instead, whether you take Lipitor or not is up to you. You don't need it. It's not a useful thing. What you do need is to find out why you're clotting. And so that could be inflammation. It could be infectious diseases, or you could have other problems associated with that that cause you to start making clots.
Do you have a picture?
Oh, hi. I like
another question about bones. I've read too that prednisone can cause bone problems, but we'll wait till he's back.
I just muted him too, just in case.
Okay.
But, he's back. Okay.
Right.
Mute. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Prednisone. Yes. So this is such an important thing. If you look at all the diseases, chronic problems that people have, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, it could all come down to the adrenal glands. And so the adrenal glands then do what? That's the stress hormones that are released. And so the adrenal glands are just responding to stress. So then you could say, okay, it's the amygdala, right? The amygdala is the fight or flight reaction. That's the part of the brain that's initiating all these stress responses. And so, yes, prednisone just eats away your bones. If you're on prednisone for a long period of time, you're going to have less and less and less bone because it causes you to take calcium out of your bones, and the hormone cortisol, prednisone is a cortisol hormone, is a catabolic hormone. The word catabolic means it's breaking down, and it's not just breaking down your bones; it's breaking down everything in your body. Have you ever seen old people with the super thin skin that they just brush by something and it tears up, and you're always like taping down their 3-corner tears? I used to work in a nursing home, and we would see that all the time. Well, why does the skin get so thin and so friable that it just breaks so easily? That's cortisone. That's stress, long-term stress. So the bones are doing the same thing. The skin, you look old when you have stress. Your hair falls out, you turn gray, and that's literal. Like the gray hairs, people go, you're making me gray. Well, that's real, and that's the stress hormones do that because they bleach out the melanin out of the color out of your hair. And so people who have had like major accidents or whatever, something, they get their hair shaved or whatever, it comes in a different color or something, like all of a sudden it's gray, and then sometimes people have chemotherapy, their hair falls out and it comes back in black. Anyway, really interesting. So osteoporosis can be caused by stress. Yes, being on prednisone for a long period of time is a risk factor for that, for osteoporosis as well.
All right. I'm going to go back to another vitamin D question because we have more. Someone wants to know what's the difference between vitamin D and vitamin D3.
Okay, so essentially we don't use vitamin D1, vitamin D2 and D3. So D2 is it's a provitamin that's made from yeast, and yeast fungus, mushrooms, for example. You can get this vitamin D2. And it's about 15% bioactive compared to vitamin D3. So it's not the normal vitamin D that you make in your body. So vitamin D is not really a vitamin. It's really a hormone. It's a steroid hormone. It's related to estrogen and progesterone and cortisol. All those steroid hormones, vitamin D is one of them. And you make it in your body, and the reason people don't get it is because they don't get out in the sunshine. And then they have these dermatologists telling people, oh, don't let your skin touch the sun, or don't let the sun touch your skin. What? How are you going to make vitamin D? So you actually need sunshine for a lot of other reasons. You should let the sunshine touch your skin. Don't listen to dermatologists. And then if you use sunscreen, then you do block out vitamin D as well. So it's very common to be deficient in vitamin D. And I think pretty much I could probably count on two hands all of the people that I've tested, which is thousands of people over the last 30 years, who have normal vitamin D levels and are not supplementing. It's really kind of rare. I had one guy that it was funny because he was a beach volleyball player and he didn't use sunscreen, and he was deficient in vitamin D. He's like, no way, I'm out in the sun all the time. What the heck? Most of my skin is exposed to the sun. And so it turns out when you're above the 40th parallel, that the sun is at such an angle that you lose a lot of those high energy wavelengths that create the vitamin D. So in Santa Barbara, where we are, yeah, it's sunny and by the beach and everything, and the sun feels hot, but those are the infrared rays that feel hot. The ones that make vitamin D have been filtered out in the atmosphere. So it's kind of interesting. Oh, and I didn't talk about the vitamin D3. Okay, so vitamin D2 comes from the fungus. Vitamin D3 is the one you make. And they usually get it, or they used to get it from lanolin, the sheep. Every animal needs vitamin D. It's not a minor, like every animal needs. So where do sheep get it? Well, they have this wool, lanolin, that's in their wool, that has the dihydrocholesterol that the sunshine comes. And then when they lick their fur, they get their vitamin D. And then like chickens need vitamin D. And chickens are completely covered with feathers. So what the heck? How is the sun going to get to them? Their legs, just that exposed part of their legs, makes vitamin D for them. So they need sunshine too. To be out in the sunshine to get vitamin D, and they need sunshine to hit their legs. So every animal needs it, and so you can get vitamin D3 in a supplement form, and the amount you're taking, the 5,000 units, is like 125 micrograms. This is where like really, really small amounts. It's not, if you take, 1 milligram is 40,000 units. So, it sounds like a lot when I tell people take 50,000 units, like Like if people are getting sick, I tell them take 50,000 units of vitamin D. They're like, 50,000 units? Wow, that's a lot. No, that's 1.25 milligrams. It's really small.
Mm. All right, this is good. A couple questions about gut health. And so Whitney said, first, what is the best diet for gut health? But then also, how can I treat a leaky gut? What are the supplements, etc.?
Well, the best diet for gut health probably isn't the same for everyone. But if you were to look at a general diet for gut health, the higher the fiber, the better, and not just like a single type of fiber. So it wouldn't be like the more fiber of one type. It would be the broader the spectrum of fiber, the better. So if you're eating like mushrooms and lettuce and celery and fruit and vegetables and whole grains, you're getting a lot of different types of fiber in there. And that all grows different types of bacteria and creates different things for your body. Like a lot of your nutrients from your body come from the bacteria in your intestines from breaking down these fiber sources, things that we can't break down with our limited number of enzymes. You know, I think we make 100 ish in the range of 100 different enzymes coming from our intestines, from our pancreas to break down proteins and fats and carbs and all that. But in your large intestine, there's thousands. There's like multitude, like orders of magnitude more enzymes to break down all these fibers and things and make stuff that we need, you know, like butyric acid, butyrate is really important for decreasing inflammation, for feeling better. It's the relaxing, calming effect of butyric acid on the brain. It acts like Valium, and you know, and so decreases stress and improves the immune system. There's just a lot of things that are made by these fibers. So the best diet seems to be the broadest spectrum of fiber that you can get in your diet. Was there another question that was?
Yeah. Well, leaky gut. What exactly is leaky gut?
Oh, leaky gut. I'm actually just writing an article on that for Home Cures That Work now.
We'll have to do that soon.
Yeah. So leaky gut is literally leaky. So you have one layer of cells in your intestines, one layer. Whereas like right here, you have like 50 or 60 layers. Right here, you have like 100 layers. On your soles of your feet, there could be 1,000 layers of cells. But if you can't in your intestines have 1,000 layers of cells to protect your intestines. Because if you did, then you'd have to somehow absorb your nutrients through all those layers. And that doesn't work very well. So you have one layer of cells. So that one cell right there can bring going, oh, look, there's vitamin B12. I'll take that and bring it and directly put it in the blood. And so you can just get all your nutrients from your food really easily by that one layer of cells. But what happens if you have this layer of cells that's protecting so you don't get toxins that can go in directly into your body? It's protecting that and blocking that from happening. What if you lose one? Then you have a hole, and that hole allows toxins to get in. Well, it's not just one cell. Leaky gut this is a continual problem where there's holes all over and stuff is leaking in through the intestines. Toxins are going in into your blood, and they have to go to your liver. Your liver has to detox all these things. And then a lot of that is stored in your fat. And so you're storing toxins in your fat. And it becomes a problem. But there's the other half of it. And that is when that cell brings in the vitamin B12, well, it can just leak right back out. So it can leak both ways. And that's why leaky gut is a big problem. So people with leaky gut, like celiac disease, for example, is one form of leaky gut. And it's very common to have iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, and other nutrient deficiencies, especially B vitamins, when you have celiac disease. So leaky gut is a terrible problem, and it's completely fixable. You have to repair the lining of the intestines and have a confluent layer of cells so that your guts protect your body is protected from all the toxins that you're eating. That's really what it is, right? So that's what leaky gut is. It's literally leaky.
Lily asks, is there a test for leaky gut?
Well, there are several tests that you can do for leaky gut. The one I use the most is the antibody test, because if you use an IgG antibody test against a lot of different foods, and you look at the test, you say, gosh, everything I eat has a lot of IgG antibodies. Well, that means that food is getting into your body, into your blood, and your blood makes the IgG antibodies. So that's the one I use. There's other ones. You can drink a solution of 2 different kinds of sugar that aren't normally used by the body, and then measure them in the urine to see how much of it is getting into your intestines, through your intestines into your body. That's a measurement for leaky gut. There's also other measurements you can use. But yeah, I don't usually test for leaky gut. If people have gut problems, they're pretty much going to be on the same thing. They're going to have prebiotics, a lot of fiber, probiotics, good bacteria in their intestines. They're going to get off sugar. They're going to eat 2 meals a day with at least 5 hours in between their meals, and no snacks. So they're going to have an empty stomach more so that they can repair the lining of their intestines. And some will even fast for a period of time so that they have, if they have bad problems, intestinal problems, then they'll fast for maybe 3 days to completely repair their intestines.
All right. Steve says, new to using supplements. On some, the dosage states take X amount once per day, and the information sent with the supplements may say take morning and night. Is that divide the dosage or full dosage twice a day?
But it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
So some things, it really doesn't matter that much. Think about, like, if you were to take a B vitamin and the dose was, vitamin B6, 30 milligrams. And you think of how much you get in a day in your food. So if you take all the food that you eat and you grind it up and you test it for vitamin B6, and you say, oh, you get about 3 milligrams of vitamin B6 a day, and your pill is 10 times that. It's 30 milligrams. Well, that's kind of overkill, and everybody knows that, and you're going to pee most of it out. But in order to pee it out, it had to get into your blood, and it had to circulate, and all your cells had to make it available. And sometimes people need higher doses, but adding another 60 milligrams to that isn't going to hurt you, but may not help though.
If you have specifics, let us know, Steve, on the ones that you're taking. We can look at those too. Mary said, my doctor has me on alendronate. So, once a week to help my calcium be absorbed more, to help me not have osteopenia. Is that a good idea, as I'm taking 600 milligrams of calcium a day and also a women's 50 plus multivitamin?
I don't think that's a good idea. Alendronate is not, it's a toxin, and it's quite toxic and quite damaging to your body. Damaging to your cells, and damaging to your bones. So it's not something that I would do. The easiest way to do it is to exercise, take vitamin D, vitamin K, and then exercise again. And if you stress your bones, then you're going to make more bone.
Right. Beverly says so. Exercise, weightlifting, eating enough protein, calcium, and vitamin D. What else will correct and sustain good, strong bones?
Calcium, vitamin D, vitamin K. Was in there. There are a few other things. Some people have issues with magnesium, and not having enough magnesium. Magnesium is also deposited in your bones with the calcium. And so if you don't have enough magnesium, then sometimes you'll make a hormone that'll start taking calcium out of your bones to look for magnesium because you have to keep your magnesium levels up. So sometimes taking extra magnesium is important for building bones as well.
All right. Okay. So John says, Dr. Saunders, do you have any suggestions for how to overcome this catch-22 situation I find myself in? I have to get up between 7 and 9 times a night to pee. Okay, between 7 and 9 times a night to pee. And when I get up, I also have to drink about 8 ounces of water. Otherwise, the next time I wake up, it will be with an unquenchable thirst and a very dry throat and mouth from mouth breathing.
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, drinking water is going right through you. That means you probably are deficient in sodium. Your kidneys have probably lost the ability to concentrate urine from drinking too much water. So one of the things to do, the first thing to do to solve this dilemma is to tape your mouth shut. That sounds funny, but it's a thing. If you can, yeah, you can buy the tape and you can tape your mouth closed. And it works really well. And you could just use, a paper tape works really well. And what that does is it prevents you from mouth breathing, allows you to breathe through your nose, which is actually really important for your health anyway. You really do want to breathe through your nose because breathing through your nose improves the function of your lungs and your sinuses and a lot of areas of your body. So that's something you can do. And then the other thing to do is try fasting one day. Start with one day with no food, no water for 24 hours. And then do that, several times, like do it once a week for a little while, and then try 2 days, no food, no water. What that will do is allow your kidneys to build up the concentration gradient so that you can concentrate urine again and sleep all night without having to get up. So if your kidneys can concentrate urine and you can tape your mouth closed, then you wouldn't even have that problem anymore. It would go away completely.
All right. Okay. Next question. Beverly says, but I'm a little confused because more brittle would make more fractures. Oh, I see. MSM and collagen might be deficient. Thanks. Okay.
Right. MSM and collagen, very important for building the protein in your bones. But if you're not exercising, it doesn't happen. And then the other thing is, there was one other thing for building bones. Thank you for asking. We talked about the 6-10 reset. And so for those of you who don't know that, it means quit eating by 6 o'clock in the evening, and then and then go to bed by 10 o'clock at night. What that does is puts you into anabolic mode. And anabolic mode is when you start doing all those repairs. So people who have to have like joint replacements and they get osteoporosis and their skin gets super thin and all of that, part of it is, this stress stuff, but also keep in mind that you're not repairing everything. So every night you get to repair if you're in bed with an empty stomach by 10 o'clock. If you wait till midnight to go to bed, too late, you've lost the ability to do that. And if you don't believe me, look at the studies. Sachin Panda did studies. There's a book called The Circadian Code, and it'll explain all about why this circadian rhythm is so important. So stop eating by 6 o'clock and go to bed by 10. And then ideally get up in the morning and eat, because if you read through the book, you find that all of your digestive juices, everything turns on around 8 o'clock in the morning. And so that's when you really need to eat, because that's when you can process everything and put everything in order. Whereas if you wait till the evening to eat, then your liver doesn't process it and it all just goes into stored in your fat as toxins.
Can I jump in, ask a question? This is, what about the use of a supplement that has strontium boron?
Yeah.
B3K2 to strengthen bones. I had a friend who was on osteoporosis med. She developed brittle bone and gum problems, fell and had a fall and fractured her femur. She had another fall, fractured her other femur. She switched to a supplement with strontium in it.
Strontium.
Strontium. Yeah, is that
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, okay. Strontium is kind of like calcium, and it's used in the body kind of like calcium, and it's deposited in the bone like calcium, but it can't be used for the rest of the functions of the body. So strontium recirculates and stays in the bones. So even when the osteoclasts take calcium out, they take everything out. There's calcium, magnesium, zinc, and strontium. And the calcium, magnesium are used, but the strontium goes back into the bones. It gets put in the bones again. So a lot of people have advocated to using a lot of strontium to build stronger bones, because it's going to stay in the bones. It's not going to be taken out. And I disagree. I think you're still better off with using the real thing. The real thing is the calcium and magnesium, and to a lesser extent, zinc and other minerals that you normally use in your body. And so I think just everybody's deficient in vitamin D. Why? Because we don't go out in the sunshine all day long like human beings did for thousands of years. We don't stress our bones all day long like human beings did for thousands of years. All our work is done by tractors and motors, and we can sit in the. You ever see that? What's that movie? Eva. that movie where Wally, where they have everybody they're sitting in their hover chairs and they're moving around. They have their drink and they're all fat and they're just sitting in the chairs. Well, you don't build bone by doing that. You got to actually get up and do stuff. So I think the other way, getting up and doing stuff and then taking the real supplements, you do need some boron, but that's pretty easy to get. And you need silicon too, and that's pretty easy to get. And so from your diet, those will all be part of your diet. Because hydroxyapatite, they're looking at, you got to take this phosphorus, and you got to take this and this and this, because all that is found in bone. You know what? It's in food. Eat good food and exercise, but there's no vitamin D in food, so you got to supplement. Vitamin K, yeah, you can get vitamin K if you're eating green, dark green, leafy green vegetables. Vitamin K1, vitamin K2 if you're getting fermented things, fermented beans like soy stuff and all that. So if you're not eating those, then those need to be supplemented. And you don't have to supplement every little thing that's found in the bones. In fact, calcium, it's not useful to supplement calcium. Doing the vitamin D and the exercise, the vitamin D, vitamin K, and exercise is better than doing calcium, because then you don't get the hardening of your arteries.
All right. Anonymous says, does it matter with the readings whether the blood pressure is taken on the right or left arm?
Sometimes it matters. When people have something called coarctation of the aorta, then they will have a higher reading on the right than their left, because the left subclavian comes off first. And so let's see. So sometimes it matters, and all you have to do is check it once or twice, and you can see, no, it's the same. And you don't have any issues with being different.
Okay, so there was a question from Steve earlier about our supplements, when to take them. And Steve says an example would be the Healthy Heart supplement. It says to take it 2 times a day. And that one, I think you take quite a few. So
Yeah.
you could split that one up.
Yeah, that's twice a day. You got to split that up. Yeah. It's not one twice a day. I think it's
No.
2 twice a day.
Well, I don't know why in my mind I was going to say, well, either way, it's at Barton Nutrition. If you guys ever want to look up some of your supplements, and there are videos that have Dr. Saunders sharing about the supplement as well.
So
do you know off the top of your head, Cheryl?
online it says 4 capsules once per day in the morning with food.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Or you can take 2 twice a day, but yeah.
I split mine up. I take it, but I split it up. One thing that Dr. Saunders talks a lot about is that supplements are like food. So I sometimes we get very concerned about when to take them and how to take them. And maybe it's not as big of a deal as we think. Is that right?
That's right. And it's probably better to not take them every day. I have people that come in and go, yeah, I'm not really good about taking my supplements. I maybe get them 3 times a week. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
If you're taking it a couple times, 2-3 times a week, that's probably better than taking it every day because you'll never get resistant to it.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Saunders, thank you so much. God bless your patients. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Cheryl,
Right.
thank you as
Bye.
well. Go to bartonwebinar.com. And if you haven't registered for the webinar, if you're here, you're already registered. Even though we made some changes, you're already going to get notifications about the webinar. We just changed the name. And so, but Barton Webinar is kind of the hub where you'll get more information. Use code webinar25 to save 25%. All right. That's it for us today.